So basically what I did, I went through and created a data set specifically for today. So we are in org merge edition, yay. So a couple things to note while this loads. Same thing as when you are doing a normal deployment, I am logged into Prodly in my control org, okay? So my control org is production. This is where I'm logged into. This is probably one of the main things that we get asked a lot is, well, if I'm logged into production and I'm trying to do, a deployment from an outside org to our org, how does that work? Where am I logged into and where do I access Prodly? Logging into the control org, everything happens from the control org. And then all we have to do is just adjust the schema settings. So we're gonna come here to this button to adjust the schema settings. I've already set this because I was in here messing with the data set. I can't really do much with the data set without setting the schema settings first, right? There's no way that Prodly is going to be able to see or account for any of the custom object, custom field, so on and so forth, nuances between your legacy org and the org that you are trying to migrate to without doing this first. So I've set my source, which is the legacy org here for testing. The destination is my org, right? This is going to be our Fizzly org. So this is going into staging. Obviously, I'm not pushing straight into prod. We know this. So I'm going to hit OK on that. From here, let's go ahead and give you an idea of what I put in this data set. So I'm going to come here to diagram view. It's the easiest way to do it. All right. So a couple things here. I know that this is a custom object that exists in my legacy org. This does not exist in our org. So I had to go through and map this. I'll show you what this looks like. These are just some things that I wanted to move over based off of my prep work. I already know that there's not a whole lot that I have to change between these. There might be other objects as part of my data set that I wanted to include just to make sure that I get the records extracted out of my legacy org and into my current org. I might not need to map all of these things, but same rules apply with just any other data set. If I care about moving that record, if I care about maintaining the relationships and the lookups, I'm just going to make sure that I include it here in my data set. So let's go back to my root object. Today, the root object is going to be the account object. It's just the easiest way to do it, to kind of show you guys what's going on. From here, let's see, this all set. Let's check. I don't need to worry about including any parent relationships to the account object. That's going to be the highest that it goes. What I am concerned with, though, are my child relationships. So what I know I need to map. On the account object, we have an object field in my legacy org called best new custom field. So with this field, I know that it doesn't exist in my current org. Do I want to include this? Do I not want to include this? I have the option to map this field if I wanted to select a destination field to map it to. I don't really have a comparable field that I want to map it to, and it is something that I think I want to keep. So instead, what I'll do, and you can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to do this. I'm going to configure my field settings, and I'm going to tell Prodly to just create the missing field. So now I know that when I push this, this field will exist in the destination, which is my staging org. I know some of you who have maybe used datasets before, you can see this, create missing fields. Keep in mind, if you check this, it will create all missing fields. So if you guys are doing an org merge, you might not want to check this because some of the fields are bunk data. You don't really care about having it. You don't want to clutter up your current org, so you might not want to check that. So if you wanted to be a little bit more granular about the fields that you're bringing over, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to come in here and do it at the object field level, okay? So the next thing that we want to do is I know that we have record type transformations that need to happen as well, and I wanted to resolve those. So in my legacy org, we have best random record type. I know, I'm very creative. But I'm going to map that to just our default record type in the destination. So this is how you're going to map record types. Something else that I wanted to do, since I know, based off of this, that this custom object exists in my legacy org, but it does not exist in my current org, and I didn't want to just add it in there. I wanted to map it specifically. So if we come in here, right, account, I am now in the best miscellaneous custom object. I mapped this to account. I went through and took a look at these object fields, in setup, and I determined that there was enough similarities between these two objects that I was able to go through and just map it. So I'm going to map it this way. Okay. So the other thing that I also found out after kind of going through and looking at both of these schemas in my respective orgs is I have a lookup on the opportunity. And we're going to find it here. We have a very confusing lookup that is on the opportunity. And we know that it is looking up to that custom object. So here it is. I've done it at the parent level. Keep in mind, okay, we know that this is looking up to the opportunity, so I'm looking at the parent relationships here. So here's the confusing lookup. I know that it's looking up to that custom object. I know that that custom object is about to get mapped to the account object. So this is the field on the account object that I chose. And again, as soon as you turn on enable transformations, guys, which is this thing right here. Probably glossed over that. This is the thing that you care about right here. As soon as you turn this on at the root object level, all other objects in your data set, you're going to be able to do all of these transformations with. So again, going back to here, going back to the opportunity, and going back to that crazy, confusing lookup field. The parent level, bingo. This little pencil icon here is going to allow me to map all of these things that we mentioned before in the previous slides. So this is how you're going to do that, okay? And the last thing, pick lists. Pick lists is something that actually comes up a lot. So we're going to go back here to diagram. Here on the contract, I know that there's a pick list that exists. We have a similar pick list, so all I really want to worry about is just resolving the pick list values. So let's take a look here at the object field. So in my legacy org, the name of the field is where are they at? Okay, not very descriptive. Also, the values can go either way. But I'm going to map this to service location. This also exists on our contract object. It's just a different pick list field. So we're going pick list to pick list. This is what I want to do. I'm just going to take a look at these values. So for service locations, instead of saying things like best pizza, a lot of corn, we're going to say that this is the Midwest. If you're from New York, I am not sorry. We have best pizza here in Chicago. You'll like it, we can create your own demo org if you'd like, but things like this, okay? You can map your different pick list values, save everything, this will save. So from here, I actually went through and I did push a deployment before the webinar. And we can see those results here, okay? First thing of note, I have no errors, which means any potential errors that I would have gotten with any other data loading tool have been resolved. I know that there are no other issues with my schema as well. If you guys have issues with your schema from point A to point B, you will get errors in here that say, hey, make sure that you are resolving your schema. From there, you can always click on view results and you can see what the differences are. If I click on view results here, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen this before if you have ever done a deployment with us, but this is kind of the money right here. You can actually see for the contract object, this is the record that was brought over, and this is what it looks like in the source. This is what it looks like in the destination. And you can pull it up right there and then. If there was an error with this, obviously it would not have been pushed to the destination. And then I can just go back into the source record URL. It would have given me an error message over here. I can see what it is, resolve it, go into the source record URL and see what the difference was that I need to fix. But basically, for example, here, I know that this is coming up as the Grand Canyon. Maybe I want to be a little bit more descriptive. So here we are in staging, which is my destination. It has mapped it to the southwest. Okay, so this is, again, very high level, very brief overview. There's so much more that you can do with this, but this is kind of, in a nutshell, what it looks like.